Get started. We like to start on time. So thanks for joining me today. So this inside the frame is going to be all about the new views feature that we've got, right? Views, filters, action. And it's really how to leverage A-Frame's search views to really make A-Frame more efficient for you. So let's kind of get started here. Um, First thing I want to talk about is what are views, right? We'll get into the demo here in a second, but in a nutshell, they're just saved searches. There's nothing magical about a view. It's simply when you're looking at transactions and actually contacts. I'm going to demo a new feature that we've got today that should be coming out this week, where essentially you can simply just save searches for transaction results and contact results, right? But we're going to show you today how you can really leverage that and make your workflows a lot more efficient and hopefully make A-Frame, just easier and quicker to use, right? So the next thing I have is offer quick access to frequently used filters. That's essentially what we just talked about. Um, One thing that we'll talk about briefly on this call is you can share these filters with your team members. So if you do have a team, either multiple TCs, multiple agents, you can share those searches with your team. So you can kind of set up some cool searches and then say, hey, uh, I got this one search together. Go out here and grab it and then make it your own. I'll show you how to do that here in a second. So I alluded to this just a second ago, but this is sort of our feature roadmap that I wanted to briefly talk about before we get into the demo. Right now in A-Frame, the transactions, view feature search page is live. You've probably been using it over the past several weeks. We now have the contact search page pretty much ready. We're going to try to roll that out later this week, which we're really excited about. So now you'll have the ability to save not only searches for transactions like you have now, but you'll also be able to save searches for contacts. And we'll demo that here in a second. And this sort of unifies the transaction and contact pages, sort of like how the old advanced search worked back and forth with contacts and transactions. Once we go live with this new contact search page, you'll be able to flip back and forth, and it's really going to work very well for those of you who need to search for transactions and contacts. And just a hint, tasks, the new task search page is actually in the works. That's a little farther out, but it's going to sort of operate very similarly to how transactions, the new contacts page, and then how those work. So let's jump in. We don't need to read all this. I'm just going to jump in and we'll just start demoing, see how things work. So if you're obviously logged into A-Frame, you're going to go to your dashboard, right? You'll notice the icons over here on the left. The first one is is not new to anyone. This is the transactions page where we can look at all of the saved views. The new page that we've got is the contacts page. So we're going to demo this as well today so we can kind of show you how it's going to work with contacts. It's very similar. You learn one, you know the other. So let's start with some basics, and then we'll jump into some more advanced, topics. I will say we do have a chat window, so if at any point you want to jump in with a question, Morgan's here. She'll interrupt me, and we can get these answered. Or if it's appropriate, we'll just save it till the end, depending on what's going on. But please chime in at any point. Okay, so we're looking at the transactions view page or search results page. You'll notice up here, I've got a number of saved searches. You click on these and you get your results. Pretty simple. One of the things I do want to point out is if you do have any sort of search and you make a change, either through your filters or you customize the order of a column, any of those can be saved once you make those changes. Obviously, you can save your changes here. You can revert back. So if you make some temporary changes, a lot of times you're looking at a search and you're like, okay, I want to see all my open transactions, but you know what? Actually, I just want to see those that are under contract. You can go ahead and apply those filters and then revert back to the original. So just know that's an option. And then if you do make a change and you want to save it, obviously you can save that and make it permanent. And then the last two options here are you can either save as. So this will create a new view based off your current settings. So this is my new open view. And you'll see here that it's saved over here. So I can just click on it and it's going to be exactly how I had my search before. And of course, you can go back to your previous open search. So it really enables you to sort of take a search as a launch point, make some changes to it, go back, save as to make a copy. You really should be able to modify and sort of manage these views with ease within AFrame. The last thing I'll show you is you can always rename a search view if you like, and then change the description. So if you need to modify that real quick, just hit the pencil and then it will do that for you on this page. Um, so what is this all view? I kind of want to talk about this all view because it's a little unique. The all view is a system view. You can't delete it. You can change the order of it, by the way. It defaults to the left, but if you don't want to see it, you can go to the manage views and you can drag it down really wherever you want. I prefer it over here just because it's kind of used for a lot of different things. But the all search is essentially exactly what it means. It's going to search every transaction. There are no filters on this particular search. Now, that said, you can always add a filter, right? And it will filter those transactions. But you'll notice that if I click save on the all search, it's not going to save the filters. It's just going to save the layout. So what I mean by that, well, the layout is really, okay, how do you want your columns to look? So if I just change the order of that, I've reorganized it. So if I save that, the columns will be saved, but the filters will not. So if I go back to my all search, you'll notice that the filters disappear. Why does this happen? We need a search where you can display everything, especially if you do like, let's say, a quick lookup. So if I just do a quick search and then I look at all my transactions, we use this all search as sort of the base search and customized sort of user-defined search, if you will. Hopefully that makes sense. Just know that you can't delete this sucker, and if you save changes in the all, the filters are not going to save, but you can always click that plus button and say, okay, I want to save this search as my new one based off what I've got currently. And that's how you can sort of keep the changes you make to the all search if you do. Okay, so let's talk about, oh, do we have a question, Morgan, yet? Or did you answer it? Okay, good. Just interrupt me if you need to jump in. So let's go to the managed views area. We've kind of danced around this a little bit with what we've been talking about so far. But in the managed views section, you've already seen that you can sort these however you want these listed up top. You can also delete searches. So if you're tired of looking at your open, or let's say this new open search, I want to delete it. I created it by mistake. Fine. You can obviously, edit, rename the search itself. You can make a copy of an existing search, which you may want to do because let's say I've got my open, but now you want to do something different and you want to say, these are my open closing next month. And then you can copy that and then go ahead and change the filters in the view once you make the copy. Another thing I alluded to in here are sharing searches. So if you create a search that you think is specific to your team, a lot of time, obviously this is a team feature. So let's say you have a team of 3 or 4 TCs or agents, and you have this search that's really specific, like these are my transactions that have this status that are closing 15 days from now. You might say, a lot of my agents might want to use this in their own account. You just click to share it right here. You can see these bottom 2 are shared. And if I go to the shared or predefined views, you'll notice that they are actually down here, the last 2. Unfortunately, this icon is the same as the A-frame icon, so it doesn't look any different, but typically that would be like your profile photo there. So you would know, okay, this was created by, Bert, whatever. But it's worth pointing out, now that we're on this page, we have a number of predefined searches that we consider sort of best practices. So you'll notice in here that we've got closed last year, and some of these are actually for convenience, right? So these are all my closed transactions last year, year to date, last month, my transactions year to date. So that's open and closed. We've got a number of predefined searches that you can just literally say, okay, yeah, I like this search. Let me use that as a springboard. I'll go ahead and save it. and now I have an under contract search that I can play with. And if I want to start to modify this, so I can kind of use that defined search as a springboard and say, you know what, I do like the under contract part, but I want to add, some more features where it's literally I've got Rachel and Betty White who are part of these particular transactions. Then you can do that search and then, of course, save it. And now you've used one of our predefined searches and then made your changes customized to the way you work, and then go ahead and save that, and now you've got your search. So
We have a
yeah,
we have a question in the chat.
of course.
So she wants you to explain the difference between this new feature, the transaction search page, and the regular dashboard. She's confused between the two.
Oh, sure. So the dashboard still exists. Nothing's going away with the dashboard itself. Um, but if you recall on the old system, when you did well, let's just go to the um, existing system now because I'm working on a staging system. But if you go to the existing system and you did a search for, let's say, all contacts, right? You'll notice that in the existing system, the all contact search just gave you the search results. Okay. Um, this is sort of the migration to a much newer and more customizable search results screen. So you'll notice I can search contacts. I can also search transactions, but none of these columns are customizable. You can sort of save search, but it's kind of a pain to do. And so everything that we're talking about today is literally like a replacement for all of these search results that you can currently use in the system, but now you've got much more customization, much more advanced filters, and just overall, it's just a general better user experience, right? Now, you did ask about, okay, what really is the difference between the dashboard and this new sort of transaction search page? In all honesty, there are some similarities in this top section, right? So I would argue that eventually you may stop using this dashboard sort of area. And in place of that, you'll start to use the transactions page because, first of all, you can customize all of your columns, you can customize all of your filters, and you can save multiple views, right? So this sort of allows you to say, okay, for my dashboard, I get it that I can see these, but in all reality, I've got 4 or 5 different views that I need to bounce back and forth from. And this makes a great screen to kind of do that with, right? Instead of looking at your static dashboard. So again, there's a little duplicity there, but by and large, this is much more robust when it comes to that top section of the dashboard. Hopefully that answered your question. Um, Another thing about this screen versus just working off your dashboard is the ability to edit or look at tasks, dates, and attachments for transactions, right? So as we look through the results of these transactions, you'll notice I've got a couple of cool little columns here. These are my tasks. So I can click that button and easily look at all of my tasks for a particular transaction. I can do the same thing for dates. I can do the same thing for attachments. And so what this screen really does is instead of giving you just that static view, now I've got all of my transactions the way I want to see them, the columns that I want to see, sort of the way I wanted, and also really do work on a particular transaction. If I see, okay, I've got this task coming up, let me go ahead and fire off an email for that. I can go ahead and make that happen, check off that task, and then now I'm on to the next, right? So this is a great way to really become your dashboard, or at least a replacement for your transactions part of your dashboard. Okay, hopefully that helps. If you got more questions, just chime in again. So I was talking about managed views real quick. I just want to kind of finish up this section, which I think we kind of did. Again, this is where you're going to use sort of best practices and then, sort of copy these and make them your own. Again, we talked about sharing those different searches with your team members if you have a team, and then of course coming back and viewing your transactions this way. So I think I probably finished that section. So let's talk now about customizing your filters. We've walked through this a little bit already, but let's kind of take a look at I don't know, my open transactions, right? So I kind of mentioned this in just a second ago about these custom sort of fields that I'm looking at. So let's kind of look at all the customizations that you can use within your views. So if I click customize, I get sort of two areas. I get the ability to customize my columns, and then I get the ability to custom sort. Um, Let me talk about sort just real quick because we're right here. You can choose how you want to sort, create date, ascending, descending. You get to sort by a primary and secondary. You can certainly sort while you're looking at the results just by doing this. I can do descending, ascending, and then you'll notice I can click on another column. One little item to note here is that you'll see the arrow here that's orange. I'll zoom in a little bit. You can see the orange one, but you can also see this sort of gray arrow. Because A-frame allows you to sort by a primary and secondary, if I click, let's say I want to sort by close date, but then I next want to sort by status, now I have my primary sort as status and my secondary sort as close. So you just know that as you start to click on columns, the secondary sort is always the one before. Now, if you're confused by it, you can always come into customize and say, you know what? I'm just going to choose exactly what I want here, click apply, and be done. The other reason that it's nice to be able to set these sort settings here is let's say you wanted to sort by edit date but you didn't want to display edit date. So you could actually sort by these two columns, but you'll notice that edit date is nowhere in the columns themselves in the results. So that's why we also have it here in case you want to sort by a column that you don't actually display in the results. Okay. Um, let's talk about columns. So we have a number of columns that you can display. A lot of these are sort of the obvious, choices: address, city, state, zip. One item of note, there is a maximum of 20 columns. I'll be honest, if you need more than 20 columns, you just need to separate it up in different searches. There's no reason typically you would need 20. I could be convinced otherwise, but you're just limited by width, right? If you have 20 columns, you're not going to be able to view them all. So there is a limit there. But some of the some of the columns that you might, think about is I'll see if there's anything in here unique. Obviously, transaction side, current price. And by the way, current price is sort of a dynamic field, so it will display either the list price or the contract price, depending on which one's filled in. So if they're both filled in, it displays the contract price. If just the list price or contract, otherwise it'll display, whichever one is filled in if there's only one. So it's more of a dynamic sort of view on there. Also, close date. Close date is more dynamic in nature. So you'll remember when you add a transaction in A-frame, you have a closing date, which is sort of the anticipated closing date, and then we have a closed date, which is once it goes sold, terminated, closed status. Then you have the actual date that it closed, which could be different from the closing date. A lot of times they're the same, but the close date is a dynamic field there. We've got some others more of in sort of the stats section. So you've got days on market, number of showings, task dates, and attachments. And these task date and attachment tabs or columns correspond to these columns that we were messing with earlier. So those are actually pretty neat columns and extremely useful if you want to work on your transactions from this screen. Obviously, you can show who's involved in the transaction. And then, of course, there are custom fields. So all of the custom fields that you have in your transaction or you've set up in your system, you can display any of those in the results themselves. So what would this look like if we kind of really tried to make use of this? If I go to I've got this one view called open, item statuses, right? So you'll notice that I have chosen to show quite a few columns that really map to custom fields in my transactions. And you'll notice that the colors come through. These particular custom fields are the choice, right? The choice drop-down fields, and we've assigned colors to those specific fields themselves. So it kind of makes your, results or your grid really more like a dashboard in a way, because now you can see immediately, okay, where are we with contract earnest money? What is the financing sort of status? Is there a home warranty? Do I need to worry about that? Um, Currently, you can't change these from the grid. That feature is coming. But if you do need to pop into one of these, you simply just click on the address, come over here to, whatever one you want to change. Let's go clear to close. And then we mark that to green and I just go back to list. If you see this little back to list, that'll take me right back where I was. So whatever search I was looking on, whichever page I was looking on, I'm right back and you can see I've started to get all green lights if you notice that. So
And
so
for the
yeah.
question pertaining to that, I think you answered it, but all these are kind of custom builds that you can make in the filled template.
Correct. Right. So these custom fields, if I go to the custom fields or the customized table area, you'll notice when I scroll down, you'll see I have custom fields, and these were defined by me. Right now, every account comes with several already predefined. So actually, a lot of these already existed, like earnest money, escrow number, different things. But as you set up your account in the back end, in the admin area, you can define any number of custom fields. You can categorize them. We call them collections, groups, and then the fields themselves. So let me just pop over there real quick and I'll show you where that's done. This isn't really a custom field tutorial, but I went to admin, templates, and then field definitions. And then this is where you can add all of your custom fields. You've got collections over here on the left. Then you've got another tier, which we call groups. And then you'll notice if I click on this, you'll see all of the choices over here on the right. So I've got all of my choices. I've got colors assigned to those choices. And so that's where all of those come from. So hopefully that helps. All right, heading back to transactions. I'll zoom in again for us. Um, let's look at some contact um, columns because we haven't really talked about the contact area. So for those of you who joined maybe a little later, we now have this new contacts area. It's not live yet, but we're hoping that it will go live this week. So very similar to the transactions search results page. This contacts page operates in a similar way, right? So we've got the all search that I explained earlier, and then we've got all of these custom sort of views that I have saved and have just one touch access to whatever sort of view I want to see in my contact database, right? So some of the columns that are available to you in the contact side, which can be, pretty useful, let's see, we've got like relationship rating, your last prospected date. So again, we're starting to get into the CRM side, right? We're talking about prospecting, we're talking about categories, and then relationship rating A, B, C, or D. So these are the number of things in AFrame that you can set from a contact sort of perspective. You can see the contact owners, and similar to transactions, you can look at task stats or number of transactions. And then you can actually list touch dates. So why the heck would you want those? That's great if you're saying, okay, I've got all these contacts in my system and I want to send out birthday cards, for whoever's birthdays are coming up in the next 7 days or 30 days or what have you. So this allows you to sort of do that search. That was not possible before
17.
with
Now we'll
the
get recording.
previous.
We'll probably get recording by
Let's see. So I want to point out a little bit on the upcoming touch days. So for example, this is a saved search. It's actually a predefined search in our best practices area. But you'll notice here that I've got the name and then all of my birthdays, alternate birthdays. This is basically the spouse, wedding, purchase anniversaries, sale anniversaries. So again, you can view all of these in the grid. You can filter by these. So, again, touch dates that are coming up within the next 30 days, and I want purchase, sale, wedding, birthdays all to come up. That's what this search does. Anyway, great, great search for following up with birthdays over the next month. So let's see what else on these. Yeah, I think we covered it here on the contact side of things. So, okay, so that covers basically the column selections and the sorting and sort of some of the special columns, if you will, available to you within the transactions and the contact areas. Um, let's go to filters because I think we might want to dive into some of the more unique filters and how those work. Um, the reason why both the transactions and contact screen are far superior than our last, advanced search type deal is first and foremost the ability to have dynamic date range filters. Now, what the heck does that mean? So a prime example would be, let's look at one of our managed views here at predefined. So one of these is my open closing soon. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this because I want to demonstrate what this new filter does, or this ability. Oops, I got to select it. There we go. So you'll notice here that I am searching for all of my under contract transactions where I happen to be an agent or a TC, so I'm involved in the transaction. And then we have this closing date. And so this is the dynamic sort of date range search that you have access to in this new page, which is, okay, I want to, well, I'll say this, before this page, you could just do static searches. So I could enter in a from date and a to date or vice versa. Now you have the option to obviously do preset. So I can say, okay, give me everything last quarter, last month, next quarter. And then we have this really dynamic one, which says, okay, I'll just read them. So give me everything within the next 7 days, within the last 7 days. Again, of course, you can customize this, 30 days, what have you. Give me everything before 10 days from today. The other thing you can do is a negative number. So if you want everything before 10 days in the past, then you would say before negative 10 days from today. And then after is also a good one, right? So what would that be useful for? That would be actually useful in the contact area. So for example, if I want to do a search for everybody in my system, every contact in my system that I have not prospected for at least 90 days, I can do that search. So how this would work is I'm actually searching for the sphere category. So just to kind of dive in with this specific one, this will give me every contact that's in the sphere category that I've assigned to those contacts. And sphere, in case you're like a TC and don't really sort of follow the sphere of influence type nomenclature, the sphere basically stands for that, right? My sphere of influence. These are the people who I can call, they know who I am, and I can ask for business, whether it be as an agent or a TC, right? A lot of times, even if you're a TC, these would be like your agents, or at least agents that you may know of that could possibly use your service. So this searches for every contact in the sphere category. It also filters by contacts that I own. So in a team environment, this makes a lot of sense. If it's just you, you could probably even just forget about that. But again, we talked about the date range. So I'm going to search for everybody that has a last prospecting date before 3 months in the past. And so that's where you would use that negative number if you needed to. So this makes for a very cool search, right? This is everybody who I've, haven't prospected in 90 days. And then I can go ahead and apply that filter. And once I'm looking at this, I can actually click on my first one. And then as I work this, let's look at this here. Oh, I've got to update our system. Oh, here we go. So as I search this, as I click on the first one, I can always click next to work through my list, right? So you create the search, and when I go back to the list, if you click on, the first, second one, third one, you can obviously click next, back to list, sort of systematically go through your list. So that's another feature of AFrame is as you do these searches, as you do these sorts, the actual list, when you click on it, also matches the search results. So something to think about as you're going through this. Okay, now we've kind of covered a lot of different filters. Well, let's just look real quick on any other filters that might be fun to look at. You can see we've got a ton. And by the way, you can just start to type and it will filter those for you. And then you can select whichever ones you want. Let's see if there's anything that's a little more unique. So search term is an interesting one. So when you do a search term, this will search the address and the buyer and seller name. So, if I just come in here and say, okay, give me, I don't know, Han, for example. Well, we've got a lot. Let's go back to all. And we'll just do a quick search term here. And then we'll do, let's just say Fred. I know he's in there. So this will search for every transaction that Fred is either it's either in the address itself, like so if Fred was a street, it would search for that, and it's also search the buyer and seller name. It works almost exactly how it would work up here for the lookup. So it will look for a transaction or a contact that contain the name Fred. So that's similar to how that works. Let's see if there's any other sort of filters we might want to look at. I don't think so on the transaction side, but as I scroll through here, you're also going to notice that I have the ability to not only select transaction fields or filters, but I can also select contact filters, right? And you might be looking at this going, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, it actually does, because in AFrame, this is sort of one of the really neat things about how, since contacts are related to transactions, that you can do a search, you can sort of combine those searches in a way, right? So like for example, if I go to my contact area and let's see, why don't we do, yeah, let's do this. So this is a search called My Buyers and Sellers. And what this search does is it gives me all of my contacts, but it gives me all of my contacts where these contacts are a participant in a transaction and they happen to be a buyer and seller on my side. That's a mouthful, but let's talk about what that means. So if I have a transaction and I represent the seller side, and again, this might be more appropriate for agents perhaps, but if I have a sell side, I may enter buyers and sellers. But if I represent the buy side, I usually don't know who the sellers are and I don't care about them because the buyer is my client. And so this is a great way to say, okay, give me all of the contacts who are my buyer or seller, as long as I represent that side. And then it gives me all of my people. This also makes sense if I want to combine more filters with it, right? So give me all of my people who I've done transactions with, but also give me all of my people who, let's say, close date. So have a close date, within, let's say, last year. So now I've got 9 contacts that are my clients who I've done a transaction with in the last year. And so you can see how you can really get creative on slicing and dicing your list, however you want to view it, because you've got all these contacts that are related to transactions themselves. From a TC perspective, you could do the same thing. You could say, okay, give me all of, I don't know, maybe you want to look at your escrow, right? So you could say, give me all of my closer participants who are part of a transaction that have a close date of last year. And so now I've got every closer that I did a deal with last year, and I could either export this list, call through it, or at least you just know who they are. Maybe send them a thank you letter, what have you. So again, combining contacts with transactions with those searches can really make for some cool results and enable you to sort of mine, your data, so to speak. So okay, so that's a lot. That's a lot on filters. I guess I'll stop talking about filters for now. So let's talk about, well, we just kind of did working your results a little bit. So again, we talked about combining those filters where you can obviously go back and forth. We also talked about when you do a search, if you click on that search, you can certainly go through your list to work it, doing next and previous. The other thing I haven't mentioned is selection. So why would you select a contact, right? So let's say I'm working through my list, and if you can see this little select box up here on the upper right, it's kind of hidden. As I go through my list, I may want to say, okay, I want to figure out what this guy's doing, and then maybe Fred Flintstone, and then I go back to my list. You'll notice that I have all of these selected. You'll also see up here that I've got the selection. And for this particular deal, I can only go, there's only one page, but if I had, some people have thousands and thousands of contacts, you could go to page 35 and select people there. And as you start to select these, then you can sort of do things with these contacts or transactions, but we're talking about contacts here. You'll notice that once I have these selected, I'm now able to sort of batch edit these contacts in one place. So I can remove categories, I can change the relationship ratings. These are like the A, B, C, or D. I can mess with the owners. So, again, if you have a team and you want to add or replace ownership, depending on, who the contacts are, you can do that. Um, you can add a contact note. So for example, if you had, three in this example, but let's say you had 150 contacts that you wanted to add a single note to, you could do that here if you wanted to do that. Let's see what else. Obviously, we can delete contacts. Clearly we don't advise that, but if you have to, so be it. Let's just kind of work our way down here. So the connect. So if I want to send a batch email to either these three or all 39, I can do that here. So if I click that, it just takes me to the send batch page. And again, the latest search is saved within my session. So I can now work on, okay, do I want to send an email to all 39 or just these three? That's how that would work. Now, you can always go back to contacts on the left, and you'll notice everything is as it was. My last search is saved, my contact selections are saved, so everything will sort of remain as it was until I click on a new search. Obviously, you lose whatever's going on in that current search. Export works the same way, right? So you can export three current lookup. This works great if you want to send out newsletters or just want to export an email list and send that to your marketing department or update to Constant Contact. All of those things, you can use export for just about anything. Letter merge is the same thing. You can merge letters with any number of contacts. This works great for, let's say, end of year letter. Like if you wanted to send out a letter to all of your agents or all of your buyers and sellers that you did transactions with and want to merge that in some sort of thank you letter, you can do that. And then, of course, reports work the same way. If we look at contacts, I won't get into all of these, but I'll just show you sort of the options that are available. So clearly you can delete, you can do those send batch email type deals, and you can export. So very similar to the contact side of things when it comes to sort of this batch mode of editing your records. I think that's it. We've covered a lot on this. We've been going for about 40 minutes on it. So you can see that there is a ton to sort of, it's not rocket science, right? All of this is pretty self-explanatory. But I think what really takes time is as you start to use AFrame, you're going to start to want to really dial down on, okay, what views do I want to see and how do I want to view my data? What's going to make me most efficient when I'm working my transactions, right? So is it coming up with, okay, I want to make sure that certain columns display for custom fields. How do I want those sorted? Do I want to have different searches for, okay, I want all of my transactions that are closing in the next 7 days. You can obviously put that view together. Is that something you want? I mean, these are the types of things that you want to think about. Okay, how can I leverage AFrame to like its, highest and best use for the way I do my business? And these two screens really, allow you to do that. So I would challenge you guys to certainly go through the transactions page because it's live. We will make an announcement once the contacts page goes live. Of course, you'll know it because you'll log in and you'll probably see this new little icon over here on the left. But what you might want to do is sort of look through these shared or predefined views. And hopefully, again, this will get your, imagination sort of going on, okay, I can do that. Maybe I want to do that, but modify it slightly the way I do things. So that's probably the best place to start. But, as always, if you can't figure something out or if you need a little bit more guidance, you can always email us at support@aframesoftware.com, and then we can set up a one-on-one or maybe just answer your question over email. Any of that obviously is possible. So yeah. Morgan, do we have any questions or have we answered all of them so far? We good?
So So far, you've answered all of them.
Good. Okay. Well, look, I didn't think there would be a ton of questions on this. I mean, this is sort of self-explanatory. I really wanted this to be an opportunity for you to think about how to, set up your own system or modify it in a way. But again, play around with it. And then, of course, if you have questions, let us know. But if there are no more questions, I just appreciate you guys joining us today. So have a great day.